All right, welcome. Today we're going to talk about how to make damage to the player plane and how to keep track of that and how to show that in the user interface for the game. This is going to be a little bit odd because it's the first time we're going to be using the draw event. And we're using the draw event on the controller object to show not only our damage but our score as we fly along through the room. There's a few things we have to change. If we look at, we'll start with object plane 1, which is a player plane. And in the create event, we're going to create a new variable. We have one here already called can't shoot, but we're going to create a new one. So grab that from there, and we're going to call this one damage. Okay? And since this is a damage variable, we want to start it out at 0 because damage accumulates. And we're going to make damage go from 0 to 100. It's kind of like the inverse of health. Okay, so now we have our damage variable set on the plane. Now we need to add a few things as well to the step event. Each step we have to double check to see if our damage has gone higher than 100. If it has, then or higher than 99 is what we're going to do. But if it has, we're going to show the high score screen and restart the game. So let's ask that question here. We're going to say if damage, can't spell today, the value we're going to set to 99 and we're going to say greater than. All right, there we go. What should happen when the damage reaches 100? We want to show the high score screen, so that's here. That's not the right one, this one here. And then we want to restart the game, and that's here. Go back here and close off our block. Okay, so if the score at any point, or if the damage at any point goes larger than 99, okay, so 100 or higher, then it's going to restart the game. So that's what we have to do on the plane side. But now, what should we do on the side where we have the collision event? So if we look at the enemy basic, we have an event to collide with the parent plane. And what we want to do here is, this works fine, but do we want to change the object plane 1 into an explosion? The answer is no, because we don't want it to instantly blow up. We want to actually take damage and not have to restart every time we crash into a plane. So we're going to change this to self because we want the enemy plane to go away. And we don't want to do the big explosion, we want to do the small explosion because the enemy planes are typically smaller than the player plane. So we make that change. And then we destroy the instance of, well, we don't want to destroy everything because we've just turned the enemy basic plane into an explosion. And then at the end of the explosion animation, it should already delete itself. So we don't actually need this line of code anymore. So we can delete that completely. Let's check on explosion 2 or explosion 1 to see if it does destroy the instance of self, and it does. So let's give this a try just to see what would happen. And what we're trying to see is if the player plane doesn't blow up as soon as it touches one of the enemy planes. We still can't see the damage yet, but at least we'll be able to tell if it's working the way we want. So there was the explosion, the enemy plane disappeared, and we're flying along and we're not restarting. So that's a good first start. Now, if you want to keep track of, or just keep an eye on what the damage looks like, the best way to do that is just to make it part of the user interface that you're going to be presenting to the user. What we want to do is put the score and the damage on the panel so that the player can see where they are damage-wise. And so we need to go to the controller that's here. And so far in the controller, we're just scrolling through the room, moving the view up -2 pixels per frame. But now we need to draw on the panel. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do that from the controller object. Now I recognize the controller doesn't have a sprite associated with it, but it is visible, and so we're going to take that into account and use that to draw the things we need to do in our game constantly. So now there's a rule in GameMaker where you cannot draw anything outside of a draw event. So we're going to add that event right here. Say add event, draw. So there's our draw event. And we want to draw a few things. First, in order to draw something, you need to be able to, especially if it's going to be words and stuff, we have to create a font for that. So we'll hold off on this just for a second, and we're going to go to the Fonts tab and create our font we need for our game. So we say Create Font. Don't really need to name it, but we want to choose a font that will work well in this game. Now, this game is kind of a World War II plane game, and so there's one called Stencil that works pretty well for kind of military things, so they tend to use stencils a lot. We probably do want to make it a little bit larger though, so we'll change the size of the font to 18, and we'll do the normal set of numbers and letters for our font. So we say OK. So now that we have a font, we can set that font in the draw event. So you grab this one, set font, and we're just going to choose the font we created and make it left align. We'd also like to set the color that we want to draw in, and that would be this one. And maybe for our color we'll use the color red. For the damage, red probably is a good color for damage. So next we want to put the title that we need for the damage bar. We just want to say the word damage. So here's where we bring this in. And I'm thinking for our text we'll just say damage. And for our x coordinate, well, we want this on the panel at the bottom. So I would say maybe 40 pixels in from the left side of the screen. And for y, we want to do maybe 424 from the top. We have to do that relative to the view. So we actually have to say view underscore y view, and then we add 424. Don't click relative here. Okay. So that's all in the draw event. Let's try it to see how it's working. Oh, one thing I forgot to change was the depth. Since we're drawing, and remember our panel is, I think, -98, I think, as its depth setting. We want this text to appear above the panel, so we're going to change this to maybe -101 just to make sure it gets drawn last. And we'll try it. Okay, there's our damage. Hit the plane. So here we are in the controller. Next we need to include the score on our screen, and it's pretty straightforward. There's actually a draw score action that we can pull over. So here's draw score. We can say the X location. We're going to say something around 400. And for Y, we'll put it in the same spot. View underscore Y view plus 424. It's like a good spot. And the caption is going to say score. And it'll look nice. So let's try that and see what that looks like in our UI. Okay, so there's the score right there on the right side. Plain. Looks good so far. Alright, so that color, a little bit dark, I guess. So maybe I set the color to a lighter color. I'm going to choose yellow to start with. That's a little nicer, I think. Or we could choose white. Let's try white. That would look nice too. All right. Next thing is the hard part. We want to draw a damage bar. So we're going to have to draw two rectangles. One will be the outline of the rectangle so you can see the extent of the damage bar. And then one will be a filled rectangle which will represent how much damage the plane has taken up to that point in the game. So we're going to go to the Draw tab. And there's one in there called Draw Rectangle, so I'm going to do that first. Now our x-coordinate, we're going to say it's around 150. For y, x1, y1, x2, y2. x1 and y1 are the top left corner of the rectangle you want to draw, and x2, y2 is the bottom right corner of the rectangle you want to draw. So you have to keep that in mind when you do this. So we say view underscore y view, because we've got to do that for any y coordinate. And we're going to add 424. And then for the other x, well, we want to put it 100 pixels away, so we're going to say 250. And we don't want it to be, well, we also want to set the y coordinate. And so we say view y view. And we're going to say plus 40. So we want our damage bar to be 40 pixels tall. See if that works. And first we want to just do the outline of it so that we can see the extent of the rectangle. I'm going to copy that and paste it here. But this time what we're going to do is for x2 we're going to say 150 plus object plane 1 dot damage. So this is how we're going to visually see the damage on, that's occurred to the plane. And so that'll go from 150 all the way up to 250. We'll leave this the same, but instead of the outline now we want to fill it with our fill color. So I think that should do the damage bar, but let's take a look. Didn't quite work out the way I thought. Seems like our y coordinate's a little bit off, and we're not seeing the damage either. So let's go back and see how I drew these things. Okay, so the mistake I made was right here. I should have just added 40 to 424, so that would make it 464. That seems a little bit big, so we'll go with 444 would be best. Notice we're also getting the color white. I forgot to change the color, so let's do that as well. So we'll change our color to red, because that's what we want for our damage bar. And then we'll draw the two in red. Let's try again. Okay, that looks okay. Took some damage, but didn't see it really appear on the damage window. So I'm not sure why. Let's find out why. Alright, here's the problem. I just go into the second one, and I also have to change that to 444. Now they have the same dimensions. Now it should work out. Alright, so there's our damage bar. We hit a plane. Still don't see damage. Puzzled. So the reason why we're not seeing any damage is we forgot to add that here, or I thought we did. Here's the collision, yeah, so we haven't actually added damage to the player plane once we crash into it with the enemy plane. We want to actually change the variable damage. And remember, damage is on the player plane, not on the enemy plane, so we have to say other here. And here we'll say damage. And we'll set the damage to 10 relative, and that will make the damage increase until it goes up above 100. And I think we have all the pieces in place to actually see the damage bar work. The other hope is that when we have so much damage, the plane will, or the game will restart. So here's our plane one more time. Hit the plane, and we see our damage on our damage bar, which is great. Now we're going to need a few more planes in our room to be able to test it to see if it blows up after taking so much damage. So I'm just going to go into my room and add a bunch of planes near the bottom. I have a few there. So maybe I'll just put a big line of planes right here, going straight down. Alright, tons of planes. And try it one more time. Flying along, hit the first plane, second. We're piling up on the damage, and then boom. We go over 100 and we get the high score screen. Don't like the fact that it covers up the score, but it kind of does in this case. And you restart. So that looked pretty good. We have our damage accumulating. Finally the game's done. Restart.